brought Timmons Luttrell to this area, we're not sure, because his grandfather, who settled in Lawrence County, settled basically to the northeast of here on Sugar Creek. And at some time his son Eli Franklin Littrell tended to gravitate and moved south and actually lived in Alabama. I haven't found any evidence that he actually lived in Tennessee, other than obviously when he was living with his father. But he lived in Alabama before dying when he went off to fight in the Civil War. And his wife survived, and she evidently stayed in that general area. Now, what might have brought Timmons up here was Mary Catherine Urban, because her family is up here, and the Luttrell family in this particular area doesn't seem to show up until Timmons shows up here. The families that lived here all seem to have become connected, and it's the cemetery and the families that live around here all seem to have been intertwined, and in particular by the marriage of the Smith sisters. A lot of the families that are in this area and in these cemeteries is the Ayers, the Urbans, the Ellis family, Smith, and the Powell family, which is ancestors to the Smith, and the Littrell families.
In this picture from left to right we have Isabella Smith, Martha Smith, Lunetta Smith, and Hortensia Smith. And not pictured is Mary Eliza Agnes Smith, Mariah Smith, and two brothers, William and James. Now, of these siblings, Isabella and Mary Eliza Agnes and William all had children who married into Timmons Littrell's family, thus tying these families together, as well as having a close association with the Ayers family. The sister Lunetta married Robert Ayers, and Robert Ayers made a sizable purchase of land from Mary Catherine's father, Cassandra Urban. And the Urbans and the Sandys seem to have lived in the area from about 1860 or 1870 on, and they're all tied together in the Blue Water area.
Timmons' children, he has three children here, him and Mary Catherine. Susie Louisa Luttrell married Richard Benjamin Smith, and they raised their family here. And John Daniel Luttrell, he married Kizzy Zora Comer, and she doesn't appear, her family appears to be from a little bit outside of this area, except that there are some balloons in this cemetery, which indicates that her ancestors were tied to this area also. And then Mary Mozella Luttrell married Alonzo Ellis, and they settled in this area. And Ellis, and you have a connection there between Ellis, Smith, and Littrells. And then in addition to that, James Carroll, another son of Timmons, married a Smith in this area, and we haven't actually been able to tie her to the other Smiths. And Eli Presley, he's buried here too, and he married a Sandy, and they lived on property on the other side of the creek. But all those families are intertwined here. You do have them. We have, and then again, a lot of descendants. Now, one thing that is significant is that in this area, Mary Catherine and Timmons are not buried here. They and their firstborn child is buried to the south of here on the other side of Blue Springs, on what appears to have been the Sandy property, and that's evidently what we suspect is the reason why Timmons and Mary Catherine are buried here, since evidently this was their church and their family cemetery. The reason why they're buried over in, it's called Old Salina Cemetery, is probably their daughter, little Lisley, who died young, probably from the flu during the epidemics. She's buried up there, and probably what happened is she probably died, and they buried her there. And then, even though they donated this property and everything, when they died, since they preceded all their children except Leslie, they were probably buried up there by her, and that would explain that. If you look, if you come out here, and you can go up and down these roads. I'm not sure, but I know that there were some heirs. The Lonnie Ayers, I believe, There's a cinder block house down the road here that I believe that he once lived in. Red and my father, I believe, told me that basically what it was down in one direction. Some of the brothers and sisters lived in the other directions. Some others lived, and this was kind of a crossroads for the family and everything. And one thing of interest is back over here we have a picture, and the picture is labeled, the barn in the background is John Littrell's, and we assume that means Timmons' son John, my grandfather. And you can't see it now because of trees, but he was up here a couple of years ago, and we could see back over there what looked like the same barn in the picture. We talked to the present occupants of the property, but they didn't know the history. They were renters, and they couldn't tell us anything, and we was a little reluctant to push any further because they didn't seem that interested in it.
But we have managed to discover a picture was taken within probably the last 5 or 10 years, this being 2009, in which, as you can see through the transition, it may not be real clear, it's not the same shed. The older barn had a more high arcing roof style, and the newer barn was wider and didn't have the large opening door in the middle. We do believe, however, that the newer barn is located in the same approximate areas as the older barn. John Littrell lived north of the Fairview Road, north of the church and the cemetery, and we believe that Presley probably lived further south of Fairview on Beartown Road, as the Sandy family was in that area located on the other side of Blue Water Creek. We're not sure where the Smiths resided, except we do know that eventually they migrated into St. Joseph's. So we believe they were probably on the west branch of Fairview from the church. And where the Ellises were, we're not 100% sure. We're pretty sure that Tinsey Blue had a house on Blue Water Creek, either on the other side on Fairview Road or Beartown Road, but we will reinvestigate that and find out for sure in the future.
Now here we have the tombstone for Mary Mosella Ellis, 1888 to 1950. And right next to her, it's covered up by flowers and things, is her husband Alonzo Ellis. This is a tombstone for Presley Luttrell and Margaret Sandy Luttrell. Presley was 1883 to 1929, and Margaret was 1896 to 1984. And then here's the tombstone of Richard Benjamin Smith and Susie Louise Littrell Smith. Richard Benjamin was 1878 to 1969, and Susie was 1878 also, but to 1942. And right next to him is Mary M. Powell Smith, and that's Richard Benjamin Smith's mother. And as I've said, in this cemetery there's a lot of Smiths, Powells. There's children of Richard Benjamin and Susie here. Presley's got some children here. And John Littrell, even though he didn't die and didn't remain in Lawrence County, he moved to Missouri, he has a child in here also.